Welcome to the Fightin Phils pregame show. Jake Starr joined with Fightin's relief pitcher Tristan Garnett ahead of the Saturday night game between the Fightin Phils and the Somerset Patriots. Tristan, first of all, you pitched a couple of nights in Reading's first shutout victory of the season. Had some time to reflect on it. How'd you feel about that outing, and how the staff did as a whole?
Definitely really cool to be a part of something like that. I think as the game goes on and everybody's aware of it, just makes you want to go out there and pick your guy up before you even more and more. But definitely got my job done. There's always things I could work on between outings, but it's definitely a good night when I can go out there and still do my job while I'm working through stuff, you know what I mean?
Now, did you know that you were part of the last shutout that Reading threw?
No, I did not.
I think it was August 27th in Harrisburg last year. Parkinson had the start, and then I think you, Kirkering, there was maybe one more on top of that.
I think Pipkin, too.
Pipkin, Kirkering, and yourself had worked with Parkinson to get that shutout. So we're standing here almost a month into the season at this point. When you kind of look at the month so far, maybe add in spring training as well, how do you feel just yourself overall?
I definitely feel like I'm in a good spot. I'm really, really appreciative that our player development staff and our coaches included just have a plan for everybody and are very, very clear with that plan. And I think when you go out with a plan, it's way easier to just execute because you can stay within yourself and not let external sources and pressure get hold of you, you know what I mean?
And when you entered this year, you had a taste of AA late last year. What were some of the big goals, whether it was stuff on the field or even just how you approached the game off the field that you had?
I think understanding my identity as a pitcher was a very, very big one in that transitional period for late summer and high A going to AA, because high A is definitely much more about development. I think minor leagues as a whole are about development, but I think when you get up to AA, you're facing prospects, and I've already seen it before. You face guys, and then 2-3 weeks later, they're in the show. So I think it's just mistakes get exploited a lot more, and when you go in understanding who you are and how you can be effective doing your job, I think it makes your job much less intimidating, if that makes sense.
When you got called up to AA last year, were there any particular moments where it was like, I need to buckle down a little bit more, like, okay, like this is different than what it was in Jersey Shore?
I think a perfect example of that was my first night in AA, actually. I had a lot of adversity I had to deal with, plenty of reasons for me to have an excuse as to why things could not go well. I had to drive 5.5 hours before that outing, and I was told that I was pitching the night that I got there, and that really just sent it home for me, like, crack down, who are you, how are you going to do your job, and go do it, and it went well.
You began your pro career a couple of years in the Phillies organization. What's just been your takeaway in the Phillies org as a whole from, starting out in Clearwater up to Reading now?
I really think you're going to learn a different lesson at every single level, and you really just have to embrace it, and I think that's what the minor leagues are for. I think you're supposed to get exploited, and even though in that moment it may really, really bite, because you're obviously the one in control of the game and your team's playing behind you, but as the summer goes on and as you have more experiences, you quickly realize those are just a snapshot in the whole season, and you just got to embrace the bad days and the good days,
And your coaching staff, Phil Condary, Riley McCulley, your pitching coaches, how's the experience been working with those two so far?
Absolutely incredible. I think the two of them have a great dynamic, and I think obviously they both come from a very, very experienced background of like metrics and new school baseball, but I just think they pair really, really well together. I think having Riley down in the bullpen with us is awesome because you can ask, mid-game questions. You can ask about maybe things he's seen on scouting reports before, and then obviously I have rapport with Phil already because I got to work with him the majority of my year last year. So I think between the three of us, I can only speak for my relationship with them. We have a very, very solid idea of what needs to be done at this level in order to move on to the next, and that's really what it's all about, right?
Now, before you got to the pros, you played your college ball at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Going to a smaller school, what were some of the advantages that you found in your years there?
Going from Oregon State, which was the national championship team the year I left, to going to Dominguez, I think it really just hit home. You probably heard this from a few other people. I think playing time is the biggest priority if you're really trying to develop as a baseball player. And the guys get caught up in, oh man, I want to go to this D1, I want to go to a Pac-12 school. I'm definitely a person who did that. This was my dream school. But getting reps, whether it's D2, D3, JUCO, whatever it may be, I think is how you're going to understand yourself as a baseball player. And experience is really, that's the key, man. There's no better currency than getting out there and getting reps, and sometimes, getting punched in the face, because how are you going to learn unless you really have that level of adversity? And
you're a West Coast guy, being on the East Coast now with the Phillies, has there been, even if it's not baseball related, maybe culturally a little bit, anything that's a little bit different than how things were when you grew up?
I mean, definitely. I think as my career's gone on, I've gotten to live in a bunch of different places, which I'm extremely grateful for. I think you get to understand people as a whole carry a lot of where they're from, right? I mean, people all the time I say I'm from Portland, and they're like, oh, wow, you're from the West Coast. And yeah, it's a little bit different for sure, but I think, there's commonalities, especially amongst baseball fans. Like, we all love baseball, and no matter what, you can always rely on that. But I think food culture has definitely been different, and I love food. Coming from Portland, it's a big, big food town, big food city. But I think Pennsylvania reminds me a lot of home in a weird way. I mean, Oregon summers are very, very parallel to here, so it's, in a weird way, very, very homely feeling, you know what I mean?
Did you and Mick Abel have a chance to kind of bond over being from that same region together?
Definitely. So he started high school the year I graduated high school, so I didn't get the chance to play with him or against him, but Jesuit High School was actually my school's rival. We would always see each other in like the first, second round of playoffs in high school. So it was very cool. We both had the experience that, we had a little bit of a relationship with Oregon State because that's where he was supposed to go to. But it's definitely nice having somebody who gets where you're from and understands how similar and different these things can be,
And you said you're a foodie, so we'll have some fun here. Away from the baseball field, if you could pick any meal, any restaurant or something to make at home, what are you going for?
And I think it really depends on the night, but as of lately, I've been on a huge ramen kick. And there's a couple restaurants I've been to in Philly, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, that are some of the best ramen I've had. I love ramen.
So you're not talking about the ones that you crush up. You're talking about go to a restaurant, the egg and the scallion and the tofu and everything.
Absolutely. And you're leaving holding your stomach because you're so full every time. Yeah, definitely. I haven't gotten a chance to try many cheesesteaks yet, but I think Vietnamese and Japanese food are my two favorites I've gotten to experience here.
Big sushi guy?
Big sushi guy.
That's what we like to hear. Now, we're pregame, so when there is a pregame meal, if you could pick either any of the selections that they usually have here or just anything in general that gets you fueled up for a game, what are you going for?
I can't remember the Mexican restaurant's name, but we get Taco Tuesday every single Tuesday here, and that is absolutely my favorite meal we get here.
Seems like no better way to start a series.
No, sir.
And last time I'll ask you a fun one. What is your walkout song?
My walkout song? It's actually pretty special to me because it was my walkout in college, and then the night that the Phillies saw me when I ended up getting signed as a free agent the next morning, they ended up just playing it out of a random stroke of chance. But it's Flashlight by the Parliament. So it's like some 70s funk. I mean, George Clinton and the Parliament, you probably heard a couple songs by them. It definitely holds a special place to me, but I think it also just keeps me loose out there, you know what I mean? It's obviously like kind of a goofy song. It's not one of those ones. I'm not a guy who I need to go get amped and hard metal or whatever I'm going out there with, but I think it just keeps me loose and it reminds me to embrace who I am, which is just a funky lefty,
It's a great story, a great walk-up song, and Tristan Garnett, we really appreciate the time. Great stuff as always.
Thanks for having me.
So that's from Tristan Garnett. I'm Jake Starr. This has been the Fightin' Phil's pregame show. Lineups and first pitch coming up right after this.